Hello guys, it's Peter from PS Sound, and this week we are going to try to show you as much as possible from this Golf Mark 8 GTI. It's pretty much brand new. I haven't even checked how much mileage this car has, and we have to rebuild the system in it. This car has seen 2 shops and it's still, not great at all. So first, this car had a passive two-way system in it. They upgraded the mid bass in the door. I think it has Audison Voce 6.5 in factory location, and they fitted the tweeters on the A-pillars, which looks nice. It's all right. They aim a bit down, especially over there it fires straight onto the binnacle. But it was passive first. They fitted a JL something amplifier down here. There you go. I think it's the 5-channel. First it was running the front passive, as I mentioned. Now it runs it active, because that was the second stage of this system when it went to another shop where they fitted a Helix DSP.3. At the back there's a monoblock running this JL TW5 13-inch sub, which works okay. And it looks like they raised the panel so it doesn't sit all the way down, whether it needed clearance or they just wanted to leave a gap on the side so the bass can come out from underneath, because this is quite a sturdy panel. We were also surprised by, because normally in Golfs they don't do that, but this is quite structural. Lightweight, probably honeycomb structure inside, but that's alright. And they fitted the Helix DSP right there. What I can't show to you what it sounds like now because of copyrights, but trust me, this system is very poor. It's, the customer was hoping that once it gets DSP fully active, it can be tuned. That would bring the result. But, well, we found one interesting thing. I gotta show this. Well, that's what the tune was based on. First I was looking at it thinking, is that real? And the EQ on all 3 bands are pulled down all the way. Why would anyone do that? I mean, why wouldn't you leave it at 0 and then tune the system based on that when you get clean linear level coming out of the head unit? I guess they did speaker level because we don't have most of anything in the car. So we will have to strip everything out, move the equipment from the front to the back, because this way we can't do any expansion, because we have to add amps, because we will spice it up a bit and do something proper. Or you have some music with you?
I think I have some copyright.
But I have my phone on Apple CarPlay connected to it. Well, you can figure it out if you can connect your phone, then we can play something. Till then I show to the guys what we are planning on the bench. I can show some of the equipment, because we will have mid-tweet here fully active. We will build pillars, simple pillars. We will change the mid bass, so the Voce 2 ways coming out. It can be packed up with the passive. It can be sold if someone is interested. Many people like those speakers, which are not bad for the money, to be fair, but shops don't do justice and they don't really sound great. But it's just not the fault of the speaker. The factory rear fields are running through the factory amplifier. To be fair, that thing at the back sounds better. It's really quiet because it's running through the factory amp, but that sounds better in terms of tonality than what the front end is doing. There's no mid-range. Everything is shifted and time aligned to the left so far that you don't hear anything from the right. Everything is muddy. It's just terrible. And actually today we have Nick with us as well.
Hey.
And we haven't seen Nick for a while. So let's run through what's gonna happen. So for the mid bass, we will have the Steg MSS6, which are very, very tasty looking mid bass drivers with some crazy neo magnet. We will see how they work. They have ideal specs for door application where you have a lot of airspace, so they should work great. Then we are not doing the MSS set in this car, because the MSS3 is a 4-inch driver and it wouldn't look right, and it's not necessary to have a 4-inch driver in this car. We will have the MS30 from Steg, which is a smaller 3-inch wideband mid-range, but we will use it as a mid-range. It comes with nice grill holder and a grill. I heard this in many cars and they sound very nice. And then we will have the SQ25 little tweeters, which look nice. We tested them, they sound great too, and for the money I don't think how you could beat that. So this is the freeway that's going in the car. The DSP.3 is already in it, but we will relocate it to the back, and the customer had an extra 2-channel amp. So the 5-channel is going to run mid-end tweet with the 4 channels. The mono channel will run the rear fill-in differential. It has to be mono because we don't have more channels, because the 2-channel is going to run the mid bass, and the mono, which is already in the trunk, that's going to obviously run the sub. So now we have to strip out the car and see what's been done, and then I can show to you where we are at the end of the day. So I already found now some copyright-free music, a little jazz. Do they sing in it as well, or they don't?
Say it again?
Do they sing in it? There's no
vocals.
Well, who knows what comes through the recording, but it's really boomy, really muddy. You can't hear much from the piano because there's no mid-range in the car.
Yeah.
The top end is doing something, but most of what you hear is just coming from there. It feels like this mid bass is not even working. It is. I had to open the door. It is working, but pretty sad. What else do we have?
Same type of thing.
We will have one video at the end when we will play proper music through it, and then we won't care about copyrights. But most of the times when we play anything and it's, you know, not copyright free, then YouTube doesn't allow it to be seen in many countries, let alone, you know, no monetization, nothing. And unfortunately we need it on the long run, because the more people watch our videos, the more you subscribe, guys, then the more it helps us to have more time and create more content. So this car definitely needs big help because it's very poorly, and the customer already spent several thousands on it, and it's just not going forward, it's going backwards. And once you have a new car like this, you want to enjoy it, and he can't. At this stage, the factory system sounded better, minus the sub. Yeah, the sub gives you that big boom boom, and that's fun, but you want to put your friends in the car and oh look, you know, I spent this much and look at this, how great it sounds. No, you don't want to turn this one on.
Feels like a downgrade.
Yeah, big time. All right, let's strip everything out and let's see what's been done, and relocate everything to the trunk. Well, we've been working hard together, all 3 of us today, and Eddie was telling me, you know, take footage of this and that, but I'm like, you know, I won't have time to edit it and create more content. So I just want something simple, like we had the introduction, and then we have end of the day walk around. But there are certain parts that we just can't look over, like the mid-bass install was just strange, because we can see that they use spacers, MDF spacers. Well, that's one thing. MDF soaks water in even if they painted it. But you can see the rings are not bolted on or anything like that, and not even underneath the driver. When we started to pull these long bolts out, because we saw, oh, okay, it's machined, at least that's great. But they go through and they had nuts at the back. So when we were undoing these, which wasn't simple, then we realized that these hold the ring, but the ring is just glued on, so off, unless they took the whole service panel out and they put the nuts on from the back, and that's how they fitted the driver. But what's the reason for that? Why wouldn't it be able to fit spacers with bolts onto the door first, then bolt the speakers on with short bolts into threaded inserts or anything like that? I don't get it. So yeah, we learn new things every day. Very inspiring, isn't it? So as we thought, this ring was bolted through washer nut, and that's fine, that's great. You know, it wouldn't have fallen off, it wasn't just glued on anything like that. That makes sense. But what doesn't make sense to me is that why would you do that if let's say if now those washers and and nuts wouldn't fall off from the back, then you would have to take the whole, panel off and deal with the window mechanism just to take the speaker out. We were lucky that the nuts and the washers fell off from the bolt as we were pulling it out with a bit of a trick. But this ring should be bolted through like this, countersunk heads, then extra inserts into the wood for the speaker. Happy days, easy, serviceable, and not made out of MDF, which wouldn't last more than a year probably in UK in this weather, because that's just painted, it's not resin, it's nothing, and it's not that much more expensive to use birch ply that can handle moisture. I don't get it. I shouldn't get surprised after the mid-bass install when it comes to the tweeter installation. From the outside, yes, it looks pretty presentable, nicely done, although diffraction is something that people have to learn about. Why not to install a speaker with an edge around it, but that's a different story. But you can easily make a tweeter push fit or figure out some sort of solution. But yeah, both of them are hot glued in with a crazy amount. Yeah, no comment. Let's just leave that there because we want to talk about good things as well today. I have to show this. If someone has Mark 8 Golf, then they will definitely struggle taking the A-pillar out. It's an absolute bitch. So on the top and in the Mark 7, both of the top ones, so two of these were like this, clips. So these little claws stay behind the oblong groove on the steelwork, and it only pulls out this much, like 3/4 of an inch, to release the pillar so the A-pillar airbag can deploy. But you can't pull it out. So yeah, some people break the A-pillars and they buy new clips. They can't figure out how to take it out, and it was definitely a challenge and a big patience game. So the first one somehow I managed to push out. I got under it with a screwdriver, and I was playing until somehow it came out. One of them bent as well. It needs to be bent back, but at least it came out. Before you can get to this one, you have to push the other two out from behind with like a screwdriver. There's a little scratch there, you can see. You get behind it, you knock it, and they pop out, but they can't go far because this is still holding. But when the bottom two push out and release, then you have more space to play with this. But then when I took this one out, I realized that actually it's a two-piece clip. So the one with the claws, this one just goes in like this, and the second one pushes onto it to lock it in place. So actually if you pull this one out first, then you have wiggle in that, and then you can play the plastic, the A-pillar out, whereas this still stays in the pillar. Then you can, good luck, you can take it out. But that is definitely a nice play. So tomorrow I have to deal with the A-pillars. I have to fit mid-range and tweeters. We will have these MS30 Steg. I've made the rings. So we have these rings with inserts glued in place, M3 inserts, tiny little inserts. M4 wouldn't fit because you would chip out the wood completely. At the back, it's nicely chamfered out to give better airflow, because if you don't do that, then the ring itself just blocks half of the basket, the airflow behind the driver. This way, he has a chance to flow. So that needs to be installed with the tweeters, which had nice little 3D printed rings, what we can make push fit, tiny little countersunk. So that's for tomorrow. I have to chop it up, take the tweeters out somehow. Happy days. So I pulled all the cables in, all the cables are in the car. We pulled all the speaker lines and everything to the back, and then from the back, back again to the front, because we had to run speaker level integration. I'm not even sure whether this car has an option for most, maybe not with this basic audio package. but we haven't even had time to deal with that, or budget. Client didn't have budget for most, or this project came pretty quick, so we couldn't do enough research to see whether most would be an option. If any of you has had a chance to figure that out, and if you know whether this car can have most, please drop it in the comment so it helps everyone else. So we need new rings for the mid base, as you could see from the previous footage. Yeah, that needs to be mounted properly. So that needs to be done. At least it's deadened on the outer skin, and there's some on the inner skin. The door card has deadening on it as well, but there's no isolation. So the door card will need isolation to minimize the rattles and also to minimize the road noise. Rear doors are not treated at all, so they will need treating because customer was complaining about road noise, fair amount of road noise coming through the rear doors. And here we are. Nick was dealing with the back end. Unfortunately, he didn't have the whole day, but he did what we needed for today. So we have a 1/2 inch plywood plate there, which is cut out to, go around things, and it's carpeted. That's actually an add-on piece to it with a bracket which is carpeted over. And instead of using self-tap screws like previous shop used to screw the amplifier plate down into the car, just literally, straight into the steel, we utilized those points. These plastic trims are bolted in with M6 threaded bolts. So we use that point on both sides, and underneath the carpet we have steel brackets. So the whole plate is bolted in. It can't go anywhere, and we haven't screwed up the car. So we have a 4-way Audison block, which is ideal now in terms of the layout, because the power is going to come in there and then go into the 4 devices, 3 amps and DSP. So tomorrow Eddie can wire up everything. He prepared all the speaker cables, in and outputs and everything there. We will see whether we can use the old RCAs or not, whether we need new RCAs or we have to make new RCAs. We will see. And this is it for the first day. That's where we are. And feel free to share it, comment, do the usual things. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And on top of that, I always nearly forget to mention, we run Patreon. So please go to the description. You will see the link to Patreon over there as well, and probably I will pin in the comments the link to Patreon, where we share a lot, where we can share a lot of behind the scene content. We have weekly topics, we talk about in-depth topics, and there's a lot where people can learn a lot over there. We've been running it for a year, and we already have around 150 members who take a lot away from the platform. So it's useful. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe after a month. But many people have been subscribed for long because they see the benefit of it. But this is it for today, and well, hopefully I can find time tomorrow night and then bring the next video. Take care.